The QPR podcast is sponsored by Northwood Fresh Fruit, Flowers and Plants. Based outside Northwood train station, they'll supply everything you need in the way of fruit, flowers and plants daily. And if you're passing them at Northwood train station, pop in and say hello, because Kev, who runs it's a QPR fan. Tell him the QPR podcast sent you.
QPR, QPR, Six Park Rangers are on the up and up. QPR, QPR, now we're heading for European Cup.
Hello and welcome to the QPR podcast. I am David Fraser and I'm joined by three other QPR fans. To my left, I have Chris Mendes from ITV Sports. How are you doing, Chris?
Yeah, not too bad.
You haven't even taken your coat off today?
It's freezing outside.
Yeah.
It's worried. And plus Gabe's got, our producers plonked his jacket on my chair, which is nice. But yeah, fine. Apart from that, I'm fine.
Thanks for that. And to his left we have Gabe, but he doesn't have a mic and he's an Arsenal fan and so yeah, he doesn't get to talk. And then we have Paul Finney.
Hello.
Who's brought his own earphones tonight. This is like you going up in the world properly. You're properly professional podcaster now with your own earphones.
If I was professional, I would take lessons of you. Not really. I'm expected to bring me own chair, bring me own microphone, and bring me own table next. And probably be in a roof somewhere.
He has bought his own booze, to be fair.
Yeah,
exactly.
You do bring your own booze. Because no one caters for the celiac.
If you just want me to shag off...
If you've got your Finney bingo cards, that's celiac. Sorry, Paul? What did you say?
If you just want me to go, just tell me. I mean, the subtle hint... No, the subtle hints are... the next will just be an empty chair.
You don't even take the unsubtle hints. So even if we... Even if we tried, you wouldn't. No. You're like the... Do you remember Stan Flashman in the early 90s, the Barnet chairman?
I do.
And he had rows with Barry Fry, and the sort of legend went that Barry Fry got sacked about every other week.
That's right.
Paul's resigned from the podcast You probably resign about 8 times a year.
No.
Yeah.
Right. No.
We have a little row about something someone said, and we have a bit of an argument about it, and then you say you're quitting, and then I say, all right, see you Tuesday, see you Monday.
I've only actually done it twice, and that's when you were being a knob.
Which is not bad for 5 years.
No,
being a knob twice in 5 years.
And by the way, he's ITV
years,
Sport. I'll just say I'm Funky Floor, fan driver, and sport.
Very good.
Sport.
Hey?
What sport? Funky Flower Sport. Yeah. I've never heard of them.
It's a new channel that's going to be in the new
Flower throwing.
It's at the back end of the Sky.
We're going to employ Tim Flowers as a commentator.
Right. Sounds like a colourful channel.
You're welcome. Don't take the orchard.
Okay, whilst I try and think of a flower pun,
Must be a role from
Chris Charles.
Hello.
Go on, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say there might be a role for Matty Rose in there.
Oh, see, that's better. You see, yeah.
Very
Anyway,
good.
Yes, hello.
Yes, Chris Charles from BT Sport.
Hi.
And what else is there to say? I've got a bit of a frog in my throat, so apologies if I cough down the microphone this evening. We're also at our usual recording place, and the girl that kind of looks after us on reception is being chatted up by a fellow outsider. Might sort of take a selfie and try and put a picture of it on Twitter, just so... No, it's not very interesting if you're listening. Right,
I don't
okay,
think
should we get on with football?
I don't think it's going well.
No. Well,
I don't think it's
do you know
well.
what? We're past the point of no return. It's too late for us to say, should we start the intro again? So we're not going to. Instead...
No, I mean, it's not going well, the chatting up.
Oh, yeah. He is. He is.
Do you think he's in?
I don't think he's in there. But as I came into the room...
She's stroking her hair.
As I came into the room...
Jesus Christ. So she's stroking her hair.
I wonder what you would say then.
So there's a girl called... there's a girl called
Yeah.
Rebecca who works on the reception of the place where we record, and she's out there with a guy, and as I walked in, he said, "So are you single?" And I didn't hear the rest of it. So we'll keep you posted, folks. We will keep you posted.
What she should have said was, "No, I'm actually a 12-inch." Yeah. But that's an old vinyl joke.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You do realise they can hear what I'm saying.
I'm going to take a selfie and get them in the back. So that I'll put that on Twitter. I've just done it. Right. Should we actually talk about football? No. We won't talk about football because let me do the bits and pieces that I need to do. You can follow us on Twitter at QPRPod. You can listen to old episodes at qprpod.co.uk and you can find us on Facebook. Thank you very much to our sponsors for tonight. It's Northwood Fresh Fruit, Flowers and Veg. They're at Northwood Station, and Kevin is the proprietor, and he is a mad QPR fan, season ticket holder. So if you're passing Northwood Fordwood Station and you need some fruit, flowers or veg, go and say hello to him. And he might give you a discount if you're a QPR fan.
Do you reckon give me a discount in flowers then?
I don't want flower wars on this podcast, Paul, so let's move on.
Kevin, come into Funky one day and have a chat.
It's getting awkward in the QPR florist world.
Very prickly.
There is
Very prickly, yes. It's a thorny issue.
Yeah. There is about 3 or 4 of us. I know a couple.
Actually, 3 or 4 florists
that are Rangers fans, but we all get on. It's all fine. It's not.
Do you meet up
Hang
now
on.
and again? And
You're a florist and your daughter's called Lily. I've just realised this.
She's actually called Lily Veronica, and neither of them have got anything to do with flowers. Lily was her dead grandmother. She was named after her. And Veronica's my mum, so it's nothing to do with flowers. But yeah, good.
Since
good
when
link.
was Veronica a flower, though?
Lily is that.
Veronica's
Right.
a flower?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's definitely do football.
I bloody hope it's a flower.
Let's definitely do football. Let's definitely do football. Middlesbrough. I was going to say a draw because it nearly was, but wasn't. Well, you've just exhaled, Chris, so you can start us off.
Oh, it was. To be fair, the first opening 20 or 30 minutes, I was just like, wasn't even sure that Middlesbrough's box was there because we never saw it. And I was starting to miss Jay Emmanuel Thomas's long throws because at least now and again you'd see the ball in their penalty box. But second half was completely different, and I thought we played really well. And to be fair, in the first half we defended quite well, even though we didn't go anywhere near their box. And what happened with Fur on the line was it kind of just. I thought that was really unfair. I thought we played better than Middlesbrough in the second half, created the better chances, should have been ahead easily. Matty Phillips should have scored that chance. It was weird because he kept his eye on the ball.
Yeah.
All he had to do was connect with it, and it would have been a goal. So yeah, that was a kick in the balls, as Charlie Austin said on Twitter.
Paul?
I mean, when I saw the team, I was kind of quite concerned at what we were going to actually do, because it was we didn't have a striker on. So I'm kind of thinking, are we just going to get everyone behind the ball? It's a worry, and when we tend to do that, we tend to do it badly. Whereas if I felt with nothing to lose, we're probably going to get a new manager in, you might as well just go there and give it a go and abandon the script. But as it was, first half frustrating, we didn't really get much of the ball. Second half, that sublime ball by Folin into Phillips was one of the. I mean, good to see Ali back at his best again, and he was amazing. I mean, yeah, I think Phillips wasn't expected because he was quite a good finisher before he came to Rangers, and he scored that great goal at Palace. I think we're just going to shoot from 45 yards now. I think his days of hitting them in from the box are over.
Maybe it's a pressure thing as well, because when he scored that goal against Palace, we were 3-0 down, and it didn't really matter, you know.
So we should go 3-0 down before he shoots. Is that what you said? But one thing I did notice was that there was and it goes unmentioned, but what a frigging tackle Ned did
That was a
in the
great
first
tackle,
time.
yeah,
That was world class.
quite early on,
if a
yeah.
German defended on a World Cup final, they'd be calling it, one of the best tackles ever. Whatever. That was amazing. It was, but no one talked about it. I thought I was well pleased with that.
Is that performance filed under... You know that cliche when people say, I don't mind losing so long as we sort of play well and give it all. And
Oh no, I hate losing. I don't care.
Is that one of those?
I mean, it might be now. I mean, when that goal went in, it wasn't particularly.
Had Green had it covered?
Well, that's the thing. It's
But how
a
do you-
$1 million
there's
question.
no way you
don't
know.
I mean, the only criticism you could level at Green was maybe he should have shouted for it, maybe, and maybe. I don't think any blame can be attached for Fur, really. It's a sort of natural instinct. If you think the goalkeeper hasn't got it covered, and it's better to give away a penalty than a certain goal.
Well, look, we I think of that in terms of the Gary O'Neill sending off at Wembley. You know, if you're going to sacrifice yourself for the team, and the game can then either go one way or the other.
Yeah.
I'll take the playoff
Absolutely,
final
yeah.
at Wembley going for us and Middlesbrough away not going for
I
us.
think
Yeah.
the commentator said, maybe if he didn't do that, Green would have saved it. No chance he wouldn't have saved it.
You don't think?
No.
Well, he may have done, but how's he to know? He didn't know where Green was. It was instinctive, wasn't it? And well, it sort of was instinctive, but he probably did think, well, I know I'm going to get myself sent off.
I'll tell you what, though, we worry about a backup keeper. Just saying.
Yeah, but as well...
What do you mean? Fair.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, to be fair to him.
There's a culture of QPR fans on Twitter as well, just being really harsh to players, and I think it's unfair. When that happened with Fur, he loads of people on Twitter were like, "Oh yeah, great. At least he's going to be banned for the next few matches. What does he bring to the team?" Blah,
People
blah,
actually
blah.
say that.
Yeah, and
Okay.
And to be fair, in the second half...
I was too drunk to read Twitter afterwards.
He did a brilliant little turn in the second half, which set up one of our best chances early on. And, you know, you just know he's one of those players that if he went to a team where he was in a better system with a good manager, he'd be brilliant.
Are we being unfair on players, do you reckon?
Say again, sorry?
As the fans as a whole being unfair on players? Are we too quick to jump down players' throats? That's an interesting question. Can't believe I asked it.
Yes.
Okay, well...
Yeah.
Elaborate. It's a podcast, Chris. If you say, if you make a sort of statement, you then have to back it up.
Oh, he's picking on you now, not me.
Yeah, exactly.
No. I'm still picking on you.
Okay.
Well, I don't think we are. I mean, I think it's certainly not all QPR fans, but I think and I think it's across all football clubs. It's a modern thing. There seems to be a lack of patience these days. I mean, on YouTube, people rarely watch things for 30 seconds. The whole... since the advent of the Premier League, everything's got to happen yesterday, sort of thing. And if you go 3 games without a win, then some fans have got to find a scapegoat.
There's always a scapegoat.
Yeah, I mean, it has gone back. I mean, back in the day, Simon Barker used to get a lot of crap before.
Which is crazy when you think of it.
Yeah, I know. So it's always gone on, but at the moment, it seems like anybody and everybody's fair game. I mean, particularly Fur is one of them. Obviously. Chris Ramsey and Carl Henry as well got their fair share of it. I thought Henry did all right again right back when he was switched there.
Yeah. Ramsey's gone now, so someone else has got to take it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think on the positive, though, I think what you said about Anu, I think that was probably his best game of the season. I think Grant Hall is probably if a player of the season awards tomorrow, Charlie Austin aside, then Grant Hall would probably be.
Yeah,
I think with Charlie Austin in the frame, he'd win it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. That's a big positive this season. So I don't like to be too negative. But all I would say is, I know Warnock wasn't there, but it was just almost like a classic Warnock away performance. Try and nick a point, and then try and get a point, and then anything else is a bonus. But all I would say is bringing Jet on sort of 10 minutes from the end. I thought maybe we could have done with a recognised striker before that. And yeah, you're right about Matt Phillips. He can score goals, spectacular goals, but he's not a striker. So.
Okay, right, we've got to move on. We've got a lot to get through. Just very briefly, Rebecca update. I did spot the two of them leaning in towards each other, classic flirting pose, and she was leaning her head to the side laughing at him. So it's all looking good on that.
We call that in Belfast a headbutt.
Right, we have a great interview, hopefully. We haven't done it yet, but I hope we've got a great interview. Chris, you're a massive 1975-76 fanboy, so I'm going to let you introduce this interview.
Well, this is, as people might have gathered by your introduction, one of the players in that legendary team stroke squad. And, I mean, all I need to say to give it away is that he was famous for playing without shin pads and his socks rolled down his ankles and tearing up the wing. Loftus Road. He's one of the first names on the team sheet in that season. Dave Thomas. Hi, Dave. How you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, no problem.
Good.
Yes.
Good to hear your voice, mate. Now it's been 40 years since the most successful league season in QPR's history. Does it feel that long ago?
It feels as if it was yesterday. There's so vivid memories, and we had that little get together about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Against when we all came down for MK Dons. Unfortunately, half the team, as you probably know, couldn't turn up because of commitments outside of football. But it was amazing. It was amazing, really. So lots of games. Some you remember more than others, of course. But the actual team never goes away from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us, if not all of us, were there when you all came on the pitch, which was fantastic. I mean, how did it feel to walk out at Loftus Road again?
Well, I wish I had a ball at my feet. I could have quite enjoyed running up the wing. But yeah, it was just a great reception, and I think that there's something about that particular side and the group of lads that we all had. Manager would love to see Gordon Jago again. Sadly, Dave Sexton wasn't there, bless him. But it was a special side, and I know we never won anything, and we just got pipped by Liverpool. But I think the way the club progressed in those about 5 or 6 years was quite incredible, really. And But, the icing on the cake was that 75, 76 side, and we were really well balanced, and it was a great... it was a pleasure to play in it, really.
I was just going to say that it must have been great to play in a Dave Sexton team with his innovative style and the freedom you had because of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, as we're all footballers, we get older and we all get a little bit cynical about the modern game and what have you. But at the end of the day, it is all about plays, the balance of the side. I just can't get my head around in the modern game where you see the coaches coming out now with these laptops and the subs coming on. He's got a minute to come on and he's telling them what to do. And I'm thinking to myself, I just can't get my head around it. And we played 4-3-3, and it was, and we never altered it from week to week, and we never really considered the opposition, because Dave and all of us, we had confidence in ourselves, and we're not going on too many years ago that Brian Clough had the same philosophy. Clough, he had confidence, and they never altered, and what a wonderful side they were. But I think he gets a little bit over the top now. I just can't get my head around it. I'm sorry. It's just, and at the end of the day, league tables never lie, and you look at, tactics, it's just horrendous. It just drives me crackers.
Well, you said you never won anything in that side, but you did. You won the hearts of everyone in West London, because that was possibly the greatest side never to win the league ever that I can remember. And I tell you what, you should be so proud of yourself, because what we did in them days was bloody amazing. And even when you did that programme on Sky, Days of Our Lives, I know.
Yeah, I was on there with Bowlesy and Jerry.
There was tears in everyone's eyes. But what is your standout memory from that season?
I think the memories were that the entertaining football. We beat Liverpool at QPR. That was a great. And then we just went on. I think we went to Norwich and we had a disputed goal or something that didn't go our way at the Easter time. And then the most amazing thing is really that when you think about it, that we all went off to Israel, the team, and Liverpool played 10 days after the season had finished. And it was just, well, that would never happen today, would it? I mean, 10 days after we finished, and here we are, waiting for the result to come through. And, the game's changed so much. And so they were the vivid memories, really, that, and Dave Sexton was such a wonderful guy, not only but a great thinker of football, and he was a lovely man. He really was. Probably the most loyal, the most genuine guy I think I've ever met as a manager. He really was. He was special. And
he was years ahead of his time, wasn't he?
He was. When I think what he used to do, and that 75, we played QPR, and he wouldn't go home. He'd go and get a flight to Holland or Germany, and he'd go and watch European football. And how many managers would do that? Most managers would go home, but no, Dave, after the game, go to Heathrow and catch a flight, and then go and watch a game live on the Sunday. And yeah, he was unique. He was a thinker of the game. Dave would have worked for nothing. He really would. Money didn't interest him. He would have worked for nothing. He really was. He was a special.
Dave, do you follow the current team much? And what do you make of QPR these days?
Well, I saw them at Middlesbrough on Friday. Not a lot of flair, I'll be honest with you. Defensively, I thought they didn't look too bad, but the impression I got on that particular show, and they were, having said that, they could have nicked at least a point at Middlesbrough. I think in that particular league, it's such a tough league now, the Championship, to get out of it. And I don't think I can't see them getting into the playoffs. I'll be honest with you. They're all right. They'll hold their own, but to push for the Premiership, and once again they get into the Premiership, it's another headache for the board, isn't it? Because if you got up it's the same old story what happened before. And obviously they caught a cold. They thought they could buy better players, but suddenly they bought players who basically was just a gravy train for half of them. And I think that sadly rebounded on the club and they've had to restructure. But I was only talking to someone the other night about, they spend such a lot, these football clubs now, on their youth academies, and yet you never get a player come through.
Well, we've had that problem.
It just beggars belief, really. And I think that, they're spending a couple of £1 million a year, and yet you think to yourself, well, you can't keep going buying players, or if they keep going buying players, why have an academy? Because basically no one's coming through. I don't know. Football's changed. I'm out of date with it all. I really am. It's just beggars belief, really.
Dave, the club are currently looking for a new permanent manager.
Well, look, listen, I've told them I'm available, but I'd have to get up early in the morning to get the train down from Darlington down to King's Cross. It's a bit too far, I think. But
it's
a
good train, that, though.
But I am available. Sadly, I can't drive anymore, so I'd have to have a driver. So, yeah.
Dave, if the club decide not to go with you as the next manager, who would your choice be?
Honestly, it's a very, very good question. I really honestly believe I can't answer that. I think I just find the management scenario now in the modern game. I mean, Dave Sexton and people, and managers change like players. They're just like, they're here today and they're gone tomorrow. How many managers have QPR had just lately?
Oh, way
Several.
too many.
But we've only got half an hour for this podcast, so we can't go through them all now.
and you think
They don't really last half an hour.
Yeah.
they're still no further forward, really, are they? I know Harry got them up, but
no, we're back to square one, basically.
Sorry?
We're back to square one, unfortunately.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
sometimes you've got to go back to square one, because at the end of the day, you can't keep paying vast amounts of money to footballers who genuinely, half of them don't care.
Yeah, well,
I really believe that. I think it's a gravy train. QPR, the players they signed, it was an absolute, they were spending fortunes, and yet it had happened to Portsmouth Football Club those years ago. Having said that, when I used to go and watch Portsmouth, who were a very good side but unfortunately it rebounded because they were a good side and the football club, but sadly they couldn't afford to keep the players on such high salaries.
Yeah.
And it rebounded on them. And Portsmouth have had to go back to the grassroots and hopefully start again. And sometimes you've got to gamble and you've got to put the kids in. Give them a go. Because if they're not progressing with so-called experienced championship players, you might as well stick the kids in. Because I know as well as most people that the kids will have a little bit more heart about them than some of the people who basically on top money.
Well, I think a lot of Rangers fans feel the same way, Dave. We've put we put out on Twitter that you're coming on tonight, and we've had a few questions for you. The most popular question by far surrounded your use or non-use of shin pads and your rolling.
I couldn't hear that. Sorry.
We've had loads of questions for you, Dave, about how you never wore shin pads.
Yes.
Well, my favourite one was from Rob Brennan, which is whether you gave Jack Grealish at Aston Villa permission to roll his socks down, because he seems to do it in the same way that you did all those years ago. Surely you wouldn't have been able to get away with it these days.
Well, you wouldn't know. As I said, I mean, if I was playing today, I wouldn't have been playing because, well, I said I would have. Of course I would. But I never wore shin pads. And basically, when my socks used to come down my ankles, it wasn't a fashion thing, genuinely. I never wore... I normally started with my socks up. And by the end, halfway, well, the socks came down by and I never even thought about it. But then things started to say, you were the lad that used to wear with your socks down. And the other thing was that I always wore rubber boots. I never wore studs at all. And people used to say, how the hell do you stand up not wearing boots. I always wore rubbers. You know, it was a thing amongst the lads. But I was I was comfortable like that, and it was just something that it developed. Really, it wasn't something that I was conscious that. But I didn't like wearing shin pads. That was the main criteria of it. I hated them. I absolutely hated them.
Well, sorry, Dave.
But that's why I played on the wing, because I didn't have to tackle.
You're a good man. Now listen, Dave. There's very many people we can say thanks to in this podcast, but you were one of that squad that made dreams not only come true but almost happen. And we cannot thank people like you enough for what you did for our football club to get us into Europe, to get us to be the best side ever that never won the league. It's what dreams are made of. Thank you so much for what you've done for QPR. Thank you so much for the dreams you gave so many fans. It was an amazing experience. You're a brilliant, brilliant player, and thank you for joining QPR and giving us those dreams.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I've said to you before, anytime you want to talk, you know where I am.
I've got one more question before you go, Dave. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
I was just going to say, what was it like having Stan Bowles as a teammate?
Well, Stan was a wonderful player. He really was. I was quite sad to see him a few weeks ago, and I got a bit of. I haven't seen him for about 6 or 7 years, and it's quite sad, really. But these are things that. These are things that come around to us all. Health, such. I mean, I'm registered blind now. I've got quite a serious eye condition, and I can't drive my car, and I haven't driven. But that's all part of life, and I'm in the process of applying for a guide dog. But when I saw Bowles, he was a maverick, Stan, and he was a wonderful, wonderful player. He really was. He was different to all of us. He was he was a big gambler, and he had totally always late many times for training. But we allowed for Stan. He was a one-off, and the managers and Dave Sexton used to know how to handle him, because if he upset Stan would just say, right, I won't play today, or I'd go home from training. Dave and Gordon Jago, they knew how to handle him. And the players in the end knew what Stan was like, and time didn't mean anything to him. And you probably are aware that I used always at home matches, always change next to Stan, and he'd come down at 10 to 3 and get changed, The kick-off was at 3 o'clock, and I mean, you couldn't say that happening today, but if the manager or someone said, where have you been, Stan? Because you couldn't go through a team meeting with Stan. It's impossible. You couldn't say, well, Stan, I wanted to do this. He was a footballer who played when the ball came to him. He had a football brain, and it was like a bit like a George Best. It was off the cuff, but he was a good player. He was a great player.
Brilliant. Well, that's a great tribute to a great man, and thanks ever so much, Dave, for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Anytime, you know that, no problem.
All right, mate. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Did he really say he was applying for a guide dog? I think we as a club...
Crazy, right?
We as a club should be sorting something out for that man. And I hope the people who listen to this at the club, who heard that podcast, can get something sorted for Dave ASAP. There's nothing wrong with applying for a guide dog, but if the man needs our help, we should help him. And that's very sad to hear, actually, because...
Well, that and after Stan, I was reading this morning about Jimmy Hill, who's obviously nothing to do with QPR, but suffers terribly from Alzheimer's, is in a care home, and sort of doesn't know anything about who he is or who he was. So there's obviously a big job to do.
Other thing you mentioned as well is Gordon Jago. I'd like to see Gordon down at QPR. He hasn't been.
He was there, I think, with the 76th team, wasn't he?
No, but I mean, like, on his own.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Also.
Specifically. Yeah, to have to have a tribute to him from what he done for the club as well. Just a personal opinion, doesn't need to happen, but it'd be nice.
Okay. Well, look, great interview, great guy. Obviously got a lot to say. Really interesting listening to him. But we have to move on. So, manager. We've got about 10 minutes left. We haven't talked about the managerial situation. At the moment.
It's probably changed already.
Sorry?
It's probably changed since we've been here.
Yeah, well,
anyone checks Twitter? Have we got new manager?
Well, come on, we have two members of Her Majesty's Press here. What's the latest? What's the word?
The favourite is Nigel. I don't know the word. Like,
what word? Manager?
Yeah. Go on.
Grapevine, but the official odds, I think Nigel Pearson's favourite.
Really?
Followed by Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank and Brendan Rodgers.
But that's not massive insight, is it? That's everybody said. Well, Lee Hoos employed Nigel Pearson once, therefore he's available.
I think the latest story is that Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank's going to take over. The non-league,
I'd love that.
Non-league paper on Sunday ran
I'd love
on the front
front
page.
Why not? It would be nice for once to get a manager that's in a job, because in business, in all the places you work, right, the people that you want to get in, if you're recruiting for talent, as they say, blah, 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 is someone in a job already, because that means they're good, that means they're valued by someone else. If you have somebody that was sacked from their last job and they happen to be available, it's not quite as sexy an appointment, is it?
I mean, you've got to ask the criteria. Is the criteria looking for the right manager? Are we looking for a proven track record? Or are we looking for someone who can work with players? Which is nothing wrong with that. I'm just asking that question. What is
He would be
criteria?
risk. He would be risk. He hasn't been managing for that long, but
6 months more than Ramsey or more, is it? Huh? How much longer than Ramsey has he been a manager for?
Oh, much longer than Ramsey. I mean, he started his managerial career.
He was at Holland for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was at Royal Antwerp.
Yeah, in
all the successful clubs have philosophy first. Philosophy first, then get a manager to fit it. Even the lot down the road that you don't like, okay, all those years ago, Abramovich bought the club. They sorted out what they wanted to sort out. I think he stayed there for a year, and then they got rid of him. He was doing a sort of reasonable job, but he wasn't the manager that fit their thing. You look at Swansea, same thing. You look at Brentford.
To be fair,
philosophy first, then the right manager.
With Hasselbank, the way he's worked
same
so
with
far,
Burton.
the way he's worked so far in his managerial career does fit into QPR's current philosophy. When he was in Belgium, he joined a team who had just been relegated from top flight, who needed to cut down on costs and get youth players into their team. And then he went to Burton, obviously with not much money at all, and worked wonders there. And he hasn't got a lot of experience, but as a former professional who's played at the highest level, he would demand the respect of players, which is important. And it would be a risk, but at least, if you get Pearson and you know what you're getting,
Well, Mark Hughes was a former professional that played at the highest level and it didn't quite work out for him.
At QPR.
We have a knack of
not at QPR,
it not quite working out for managers.
He's doing a great job at Stoke, and he did a great job.
Yeah, but that's no
QPR.
good to us, is it? I'm talking about.
I think
QPR.
the problem with
things have to change it elsewhere in the club for anyone to succeed as manager there.
But should they work with a director of football, or should they be allowed to get on with themselves?
I don't know.
Well, we've got a director of football, haven't we? So the only way they're not going to do that is if we don't have a director of football anymore.
I'm not saying. I'm just trying to think of what they're trying to build.
Well, when you let me know when you found out what the current philosophy is, let me know, because you mentioned
philosophy this week.
That's what I mean. Chris said if it fits into the philosophy, but it seems, as I've said before, the goalpost sort of moved. So I don't know if they've moved back or whether they're going to go in a different direction.
Glenn Hoddle.
I mean, I think first of all, I think you can. Brendan Rodgers is the list I looked at was second favourite. I think you can scrub that right off. I mean, papers. You looked
situation.
At every single well, as much as anything else, you don't want a bloke who's celebrating a goal by putting his hand up like he's got the answer at school. I mean, that's I wouldn't want to see Brendan Rodgers. That celebration he does when they score a goal.
But he did create something very good at Swansea, though, whether we like it or not.
But every manager has done well at Swansea in the last 10 years because it's the structure and philosophy of the club, and it's the fellow who's chairman, Jenkins, as much down to him as anyone else. There's no manager that's done badly there.
On that note, Glenn Hoddle wrote a column in the Daily Mail last week, or maybe the week before, where he said that the biggest problem that he found when he was at QPR recently in the last couple of years was that there was a lot of people there like himself, Redknapp, other coaches and director of football, what have you, and he said that no one really knew who they were reporting to and there was no clear structure there, and he said that was a problem, and he thinks that's why no one's having much success there.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, but by the way, I was being a bit flippant about Brendan Rodgers there. I mean, of course, I'd take him aside from putting his hand up in the air, but that's what I was going to go on to say. I mean, I think you can scrub him. What papers do, you won't find any quotes in these stories.
No.
They'll pick out whoever's and a lot of
anyway.
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, Jimmy Floyd. Yeah. I mean, if we're going for that first philosophy, if I'm getting that right, then I mean, he's the sort of bloke we should be looking at.
He also mirrors the kind of players we're trying to bring in from lower league players.
No,
that,
absolutely.
trying to prove themselves.
When he was at Antwerp, that was his first job, he said they'd just been relegated, like you said. He said it was a 2 or 3 year project, and he aimed to win promotion by playing attacking football with younger players on a reduced budget. I did lift that from Wikipedia, granted. But he finished 7th in his first season, then went to Burton. There's 2 worries with him. 1, 2 to 3 year projects. Are the owners and the fans going to be, have the patience for that? And 2, lose 3 games on the bounce, and the Chelsea connections will start rearing their.
My biggest worry of Hasselbank. My biggest worry of Hasselbank is that.
Well, no, I'm with you. Yeah, I agree. But
is that most of the QPR fans, I'd say probably 2/3, judging from what I found out today, would prefer Pearson as manager. So if you do get Hasselbank in and he has a few dodgy results, I'm just worried that the same thing will happen that what we saw with Chris Ramsey. It starts to get negativity from the fans.
But
that will trickle down to the players.
Results.
Exactly, but the fans have to be more patient. Whoever the club choose, whether it's Pearson, whether it's Hasselbank,
well, the fans
or someone
didn't
else.
sack Ramsey. The club
really?
did.
They didn't, but they created such a negative atmosphere at games that it made it almost impossible for him to carry on there.
I mean, everyone always says our fans are deluded. They want ambition, fast. They want success. They want promotion. I'm not really sure when I go back to the Premier League, because the Premier League was, to me, a nightmare. We lost 80% of our games practically. We didn't, it was horrible. And I just want stability. If Hasselbank's a man for stability, so be it. If Kenny Jackett's a man, so be it. I just want to make sure they've interviewed extensively to get the right person, because if they get this wrong, it could have severe repercussions.
So let's talk about this process. This does seem to be taking a lot longer than usual.
Well,
is that a good thing, or is that a bad sign?
No,
does that mean they really know what they're doing, or they really don't know what they're doing?
We got stuff. Have the owners been to many games? Do the owners still go to most games?
I think it shows them
in touch.
Well, promotion's out of the window for this season. I think they should forget about that. And the fact that they're taking a bit longer suggests that they kind of agree, that they're not going to get promoted this season. So I can't see why it would be a bad thing that they're taking a little bit longer to decide who the manager is. And I'm glad they're actually interviewing different people.
The last time I saw Amit Bhatia was on the Kevin Peterson documentary on Friday night. I haven't seen him for a while.
Yeah, so what I'm saying about the owners, I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing, but I'm just wondering who goes from the board to games anymore? Have the owners lost a wee bit of interest?
Well, I think the key to this is Lee Hoos, as we mentioned.
He's very canny, that man.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing we haven't touched on. I think we were running out of time, but...
like we're always running out of time. Carry on.
But he was speaking at the forum recently, wasn't he? By all accounts, was...
No, he did brilliantly. He did deflection brilliantly. I don't know that. I'm American. You don't ask American about football. He knows his gravy. He knows what he's doing.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, if he's behind the process, then I'm a little bit more confident that A, we'll get the right person, and B, we can maybe address this problem that Glenn Hoddle mentioned in his column, and that maybe people will know who they're answering to. The problem we've had as well is, Tony Fernandes has been the chairman. I know a lot of people like him, and he's a likeable fella. But he spends a lot of time out of the country dealing with his other business, and you need a permanent fixture here. And exactly, you need. There's almost too many cooks. You need to know who is the main person.
Was that your R's end?
No,
because Gabe is already doing the twisting 2 fingers around each other. Can you hurry up motion? So we need to get to the R's end. Just quick Rebecca update. The gentleman has left.
And there's 3 more arrived.
And now she's stocking a cupboard
really
silently.
bad.
So we don't know whether he got her number or not, but I'm saying it quietly because she's right outside the door. Right, R's end. Last, anything that we haven't said, mentioned, talked about. Paul.
Basically, well done to every single person who went to Middlesbrough. Pat yourself on the back. You did well. God, I couldn't get up there, but it's one of them things. But I tell you what, you've done us proud. We could hear you singing, and there wasn't that many, so full respect and brilliant. One very last thing, all I'm saying. Surely we've got to beat Leeds on Saturday, haven't we? Surely? A club that's...
We'll do a round table of scores.
Oh, we're going to do that.
We'll do it. We've got enough time for that. Chris.
I haven't got an R's end, so I'll
fine. Chris.
Leeds prediction score.
Yeah, we'll do that in a minute.
Right, well, the last time we played Leeds under Neil Warnock was one of the most bonkers days in a lifetime of bonkers days supporting QPR. It's the only time I've watched a team get promoted twice, having gone to Watford to see us mathematically go up. And then there was all that agonising wait over the Foreland saga. So, yeah, I just remember, people say they remember the JFK thing. I certainly remember when we realised that we were finally going up, and there was that ripple along the Uxbridge Road as people started piling out the pubs and stuff like that. And then the flags.
I vaguely remember that day.
And the hugs, and then the cheers, and the more hugs, and all the rest of it. But that was then, this is now. So basically, all I want is 3 points on Saturday.
Fine. So my R's end, I'll start off the score prediction. I will go. I think we'll win because Leeds lost on Saturday, and we're due one. So I will go 2-1. Austin to get both. Chris.
My prediction's 1-0. QPR Phillips.
Paul.
I'm going to go for 2-0 Rangers and Steve Evans to get sacked afterwards. And by the way, get well soon, Gary Hurd.
Chris.
Well, I'll go 2-0 and 2-0. And I'll go to QPR, and I'll go for Austin and Grant
Was that
Hall.
cryptic in some weird fashionable way?
Okay.
Just bizarre.
Thank you very much for listening. This has been the QPR podcast. We will see you again next week. The QPR podcast is a West 12 Media and Burble Media production. The QPR podcast is sponsored by Northwood Fresh Fruit, Flowers and Plants. Based outside Northwood train station, they'll supply everything you need in the way of fruit, flowers and plants daily. And if you're passing them at Northwood train station, pop in and say hello, because Kev, who runs it's a QPR fan. Tell him the QPR podcast sent you.
QPR, Chris Rangers are on the up and up. QPR,